welcome everybody. So this is Dr. Muhammad Imam. I'm the director of the Business Incubator, and it's my pleasure to introduce the moderator of this panel discussion, Mr. Trey Gary from Aramco Entrepreneurship Center. The title of this panel discussion will be about opportunity in supporting local content startups. So Dr. Trey, Mr. Trey is going to call the panelists, inshallah. Wow.
Hey, look at that. One person. Yeah. Good afternoon. Welcome. Before the panelists come up, because I see they're still getting ready, my name is Trey, and I've been in Saudi Arabia for 6 years, over 6 years, and this is nostalgia for me. When I first got to Saudi Aramco and the Entrepreneurship Center, they were paying for Booz Allen to come over to the university and teach a business planning class for KFUPM students. And I jokingly but kind of seriously said to Aramco, just give me that money and I'll go over and teach it. I said, no, I'll go over and teach it for free, which I did. And it has generally happened every year since. But in the first year's experience, I got to meet Dr. Wael Musa and now his fabulous staff. And I could not be more proud of what they've done for this ecosystem, for Saudi Arabia, before a lot of the current players were even ideas in people's heads. So this event 6 years ago was one of the first entrepreneurship events, for sure, in the Eastern Province. There were some other things happening, and it's a testament to the people in this room, the people in the extended ecosystem today that has us on a path towards that Vision 2030. And it's just exciting. I'm inspired. Sitting up here, I'm going to be inspired by our three speakers. I'm inspired generally by, again, the progress that has been made. And it's much easier for entrepreneurs to start businesses today than it was 6 years ago, given the great work that people like KFUPM are doing. So thank you. So without further ado, I will call up my esteemed panel members, starting with Mr. Adel Al-Suhaimi. And then next up, Mr. Mohammed Al-Araifi. I'm up and down. Last one, Mr. Ibrahim Al-Sheikh. Okay, no more up and down. Welcome, first of all, and thank you for attending. And I look forward to a little discussion between the four of us, and then I want to leave some time at the end for audience participation and questions. Why don't we do this? You guys know yourselves better. I printed out bios, but give me like just 2 minutes on your background and what your entity is, starting with Adel.
Thank you very much. I'm very pleased to be in this forum, and thank you for the invitation from the Entrepreneurship Institute, the university. I am Adel Al-Suhaimi. I graduated from this university in 1985. I am an engineer, civil engineering. I completed I joined SIDF after graduation, and I enrolled in the Chase Manhattan Bank program, that's credit management program at New York, for about a year. After my core training, I worked as a credit officer in SIDF till I became the Assistant Director General responsible for the business and credit about 5 years ago. I worked as board member in some of the companies in the kingdom, and also for some of the committees. Interestingly enough, I worked for maybe 4 years in some small projects in a committee related to the Saudi Social Bank to evaluate new or small projects. Also in SIDF, we will go into details when we go into this discussion regarding the topics and our contribution in SIDF. Thank you.
Super. Thank you, sir. Mohammed, you're up.
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you for the invitation. I'm very happy to be here and represent the Small and Medium Enterprises General Authority. Just a brief about my background. I'm very happy to be back here. I studied here for one orientation semester before I ran away to the US and finished my degree from Oregon. And back, I did many years in consulting with EY and with Thomson Reuters. And over the past 2 years, I've been working in the Entrepreneurship Advancement Department at the Small and Medium Enterprises General Authority. And our role is mainly to support or enhance any activities related to entrepreneurship. And I will be happy to share more about that through the panel.
Super. Thank you, sir. And last but not least, Ibrahim.
Assalamu alaikum. This is Ibrahim Al Sheikh. I get MIS, Management Information System. I was working with Aramco for almost 20 years. Then I escape away from Aramco for the business. Look like يقول حاش من الجمر طاح في النار بس this is Arabic, sorry. Then for 20 years I was in the Saudi Aramco. Then I was elected as a board in Chamber of Commerce, and now I'm heading the Industrial Committee and Power Committee in Eastern Province Chamber.
Super. Thank you very much, gentlemen, again. So, being a former entrepreneur and now working for Saudi Aramco Entrepreneurship Center, I mentioned that the ecosystem has evolved. And for me, just because entrepreneurship is so new in this region, it's an emerging market still, to be fair, at least in my opinion, there are so many entities that are supportive of entrepreneurs. And then coupled with, there's not, 5 million entrepreneurs like there are in the United States that are trying to start their own business. The number is much smaller. Generally the population is employed by the larger corporates or the government. We're starting to see a lot more interest from Saudi nationals in entrepreneurship, and that's great. But given the small pool or competition between the entrepreneurs and then entities like yours supporting entrepreneurship, I'd like to hear about what your specific entities are doing to support local content and or entrepreneurship. And let's mix it up and start with you, Ibrahim.
For us as a chamber of, the Eastern Province Chamber of Commerce, we start programs. Okay, when you study the market, we found there will be a lack of communications between all these enterprise and the ODS here, which is the small business and the SMEs. We're trying to bridging all this by having seminars and have programs. We have programs like Tasheel. These programs bring this startup or small companies to, and this is from the side. The other side we bring enterprise company like Saudi Aramco, Sabic, Electricity, and we bring them in one table to discuss and to discover what they have as opportunity. To simplify the registration in the company, how to be in the business rate, how to be in the contracting business rate, or how to be the manufacturing business rate. This is one of the activities Chamber is running now. The other one, which will be launched hopefully next month, they call it Tasheel, which is bridging. Also, they have this is more focusing in shared economics. Okay, we are trying to create the ecosystem inside the countries here. Okay, from other side also we try to build there's the supply chain for the manufacturing. Okay, we have a messaging why you are doing everything from A to Z by your give some of your business to the small business to handle it for you. It will be much cheaper for you, and it will give you strength to export your product and these things. This is what you are trying to do it now under the umbrella for Chamber of Commerce right now to assist these people.
Super. Go back to that new program. Can you tell me a little bit more specific? You know, I'm an entrepreneur. I want to start a business. What is the process, or what will the process be?
Yeah, see, the new programs which will be announced. It is from the giant. We're beginning from them. We'll try to convince you, as a manufacturer, didn't run the everything from scratch to finishing a product. We need this part of your business, like whatever. We can assemble it for you, and we'll give it to you to continue business. This is the opportunity we need to discover it and to redesign it with the manufacturer. We start today. I mean, the other things in this new programs, the utilization for manufacturing, and some of the manufacturer, I mean, the startup, they do factory for high capacity and utilize. We'll try to utilize some of your capacity for other factories to utilize it, or your services, or your warehousing, or all these, or even your maintenance, or other way around.
Super. And anyone aspiring to start their own business can follow up with you regarding those programs after our panel.
Yes.
Perfect. Shukran.
Thank you.
Let's go next to Mohammed. Talk to, Manshad is the SME authority, so this is the sweet spot, but why don't you talk to us about specifically your role there, and then maybe some of the existing marquee programs and some of the new things that you're working on. And there's a lot.
There is a lot. So I'll just give a brief before, as you were saying, there are lots of entrepreneurs, lots of efforts, but very little organization. So entrepreneurs were considered like orphans. So they don't know where to go to when they need help. Multiple government and semi-government and private sector initiatives that support entrepreneurship or startups, but not really one entity that holds the responsibility of enhancing this sector. So hence 2 years ago or 2 years plus, the SME Authority was created. Our role is mainly to be the voice of SMEs, to orchestrate the different efforts, the complex organization involvement into more organized, identify the key challenges and support fixing or filling that gap. One main objective is SME contribution in the GDP, 35%.
That's the target.
That's the target. It's now, I think, 22 or 24%. So we had one setup year, and now I think 2019 will be our execution year, inshallah. Narrowing down to what the entrepreneurship advancement department is working on. Mainly, we try to make those entrepreneurs as a community. We're working on, first we did the licenses for incubators, accelerators and co-working spaces. It was launched April last year. Today we have 77 licensed incubator, accelerator, co-working space, 12 of which are here in the Eastern Province. And that entails we want to build those communities. Because to understand what entrepreneurs need, to be able to help them, we want to go to them and not open a door and wait for whoever is able to come to us. We're doing different programs that generate startups through those incubators, accelerators, and we do have specific programs for women entrepreneurship, and social entrepreneurship, because those two industries have probably different needs. They're in different stage than the rest of the startups. So those are the different services that we are brought into.
Super. How about just because we're here in the Eastern Province, it's not completely your responsibility, but they're doing something new down in the Corniche that's going to launch March 20th, I heard out in the hall. Want to talk a little bit about that?
Yes,
Sure.
correct. So we have entrepreneurial hub. So hubs are community. The project deadline is March 20th, but yet to I hope we will be inshallah
Soon.
on target. It's an innovation center that has that attracts SMEs and entrepreneurs for data analytics, and it's very sophisticated. As well as we have a large, let's say the skeleton is a co-working space, but the activation is different programs for entrepreneurs, activities such as incubation and acceleration, focusing on sectors that this area and the partners with us in around the Eastern Province would benefit and add value.
Yeah. And it's the first such hub in
And this
Saudi
is
Arabia.
the first such hub that will be launched in the kingdom.
Right.
And this year, hopefully, we'll also have one in Riyadh, another in Jeddah.
Super. And then just speaking to, again, the ecosystem evolving, those 77 approved co-working, incubation, accelerator locations weren't around 5 years ago. The majority of them. Maybe
Majority
a few.
of them, yes. Majority of them, actually, 2017 were not around.
Right.
So it's because no one wants to get into an industry that is not yet regulated.
Yeah.
And note that this is the only industry that SME Authority is regulating. So we don't regulate, we enable different activities, but the only license we issue is the license for those platforms. So yes, Badr was around, probably one of the first
Yep.
programs. Others follow, were established later on, but now
They were
because
accredited by you guys once you got set up, and now there's
Absolutely.
77.
now we have 77 and a lot more to come.
Super. So for the entrepreneurs in the room, we all aspire for Vision 2030, but it's Vision 20 now. 77 locations. My goodness, that's a lot.
Thank you, Zafar. Yes.
Thank you, Mohammed. Adil, talk to us about SIDF. I know that there's been a lot of progressive thinking at the highest level, including yourself. I was familiar with SIDF 5 years ago, I think was my first exposure, and I know that you guys have done great things. So you were high on my list wanting to hear from, because I know there's been a lot of changes and it's become even more progressive, if you will.
Yes, thank you. Since we are, it's really transformation. The country itself is in transformation stage, not only SIDF or. So we have this new Vision 2030 and its programs, and SIDF is considered now a key enabler or financial enabler for one of the major program, which is the National Industrial Development and Logistic Program, NIDLIP, which has been integrated and approved recently. And this entail a lot of or additional sectors to be financed by SIDF. That's including the mining, energy, logistic, in addition to the manufacturing. SMEs is considered part of SIDF mandate or territory. In fact, have during the last or since inception, 44 years, SIDF has participated a lot in developing SMEs. And it's worth to mention to inspire the audience is if we take an example, Al Marai company, they had their loan from SIDF, the first loan in 1981, with a value of about 8 million riyal. And since then, they have been growing, and their exposure exceeded 4 billion Saudi riyal from SIDF, and their total assets exceeded 32 billion Saudi riyal. I have really a lot of examples, not only in Marai, but we have a lot of examples when we started with lending small companies that were really targeting a very small demand. It's not that big, and they really thrive and developed rapidly with time and with demand. I think entrepreneurship is not a challenge task. To me, it's not a challenging task. I think it's if we go back and think about needs entail or required the establishment of these SMEs. Some of these projects that they started as SMEs and they grow with the time and they become big companies. There was a reason behind that, not because of regulations and what's have been said this morning. This is really it is part of the issue or the challenge, but the main challenge, I think, is if there is a desire, if there is a will, there is a way. I mean, there will be something that's make it happen. If we go to some for dairy projects in particular, just an example, or bulky projects, there's a reason why they have to be like localized, must be localized. And if we go dairy, it's a perishable product, so it has to be localized. And this is the reason. Let's make it, drive it to be localized. Something about SIDF. We have been financing small businesses for now. Our 2/3 of projects that we are financed by SIDF is SMEs, are SMEs. And in terms of value, almost 15% of our total approvals, which reached about 160 billion Saudi riyal. What is in the pipeline? Of course, local content is a priority when it comes to manufacturing sector. In SIDF, we have developed certain programs like AFAQ program, which is really targeted industrial entrepreneurs. Also, there are a dedicated program to incentivize investment in energy saving and Industry 4.0, and we called it Tanafusiyya. And the third program focusing on local content for the supply chain for big corporates like Aramco and Ma'aden and Sabic, and we called it Tawteen. There is also a partnership has already been signed between SIDF and Badr specifically for recently, or almost a month ago, specifically to help entrepreneurs to start with Badr, and once their idea is proven and tested, and there's a feasibility study that shows the viability of the project, then it will be approved conditional to introduce angel investor or to add to run the project and to implement the project and run it. Once it's in operation, then SIDF will continue. We'll continue extending the support for the project anyway. For projects that are with less value in terms of loans, less than 5 million, let's say, we are already in collaboration and talk with the Saudi Social Bank, Social Development Bank, for taking over this. For taking the lending or the financing of these projects, while SIDF will give the technical advice for them.
Super.
The advisory is already, we have a partnership with SMEs General Authority. It's already we have it under their program Tamuh program to provide also training and advice for industrial entrepreneurs on lean manufacturing, process improvement, and digitization. Last but not least is the SME working capital financing. It's under our radar and our focus, and will be provided to existing manufacturers regardless of the size. But this is pending the approval of our mandates, which is still not yet approved for the changes. Also, we have already our board digitize our application process. It's client focused. We have a mobile apps already, and we also have collaboration with other governments entities that are related, like SAGIA and Saudi Post, Ministry of Interior, to facilitate the application process within SIDF. Also, we have the loan and land with Modern, where the applicant or entrepreneurs can start apply for a land and loan at the same time, and also with the King Salman Energy City Spark in the Eastern region, and with the Economic City Authority in the Western region. So SMEs, it's in our blood in SIDF. We have been financing a lot of SMEs, and the most important at SIDF now is the bankable feasibility study. I mean, the challenge here is that we have to have the entrepreneur is aware of the project, is aware of the risk involved in the project, able to finance or to secure or to provide the security to SIDF. This is the challenge. So to enable that, we have been now with, as I said, with collaboration with incubators or accelerators that could help to make that happen in a faster pace.
Super. And so for me, the last 60% of what you talked about, all those new programs are kind of SIDF on steroids. Those are the new things that have been added lately that, again, I heard complaints from U.S. educated Saudis saying there's no small business administration, there's no SBA here in Saudi. Well, guess what? It's still industrial focused, but now it's energy savings and it's potentially working capital. It's looking more like, an SBA on steroids, what they've done. So kudos to you and your team, sir.
Probably I will add also that SIDF is now establishing its academy, and its academy will have two parts. Parts will be focused on the training, the core training we are having. Actually, we have now we started already our communication with and signed a lot of agreements for training with Stanford University. We already signed with Vitch Learning. We already also started to send our professionals to be an expert. This is we call an expert track with Donald Berger. It's a consulting firm. And also our SIDF Academy will focus on training the entrepreneurs themselves. We will have part of that to be part of our mandate or our requirements.
Super. Again, just some real quick thoughts. Sometimes in government you see silos, and the right hand isn't talking to the left hand, and that happens in big corporations without mentioning names as well. But you heard from each one of these three fine gentlemen that there's crossover and there's collaboration between these entities, and that extends to SAGIA, to MOKI, go down the line, across different ministries. There's common efforts, and it's trying to provide solutions to the entrepreneurs. So that will tee up my next question. Here comes the hard questions. Sit down. Be careful. What is, for you as individuals, working with SMEs, working with local content, working with entrepreneurs, what do you see as the biggest challenges? And if you don't know a challenge, give us one or two things that you think this market still needs to kind of take us to a next level. And let's start with Mohammed in the middle this time.
Okay, I think very key challenge that access to, a lot of entrepreneurs, all they think is, setting up, and the cost of setting up and funding the startup is very important, but a lot of entrepreneurs come asking for money, and a lot of most of what they need is actually advice and mentorship. And a lot of people come ask for advice and find out that all they need is actually funding. So I think very key is capacity building, ensuring that awareness is there, and being available, even if they're not looking, being available for any startup on any service that they may need. So, and that that includes funding, but not limited to funding. And another very key challenge, and I think this is actually very important, and it's aligned with this subject of this panel, is the access to market. So, even if the product is great, even if the whole idea and business model is great, if all they can sell is to Aramco, and Aramco is not available, or SABIC or any other entity, then they won't grow. So access to market, and not only limited to local and national markets, I'm talking about also global markets. So I think with the local content, different initiatives from the government and from the large conglomerates in the private sector, I think this is the solution for this challenge that is being put together, and I think with the different efforts from Munshaat and from all the different entrepreneurship, startup supporting agencies and private sector initiatives such as WIDE, and are the answer to the first challenge.
You stole one of mine. You know, access to market is big. We heard this morning about IKTVA at Saudi Aramco, and I think there's some unofficial talk that could be extended to other corporations in Kingdom. But it's still, you know, we need more support for local content from a purchasing standpoint. You know, we need the big companies here to support with their purchasing power. You know, the entrepreneurs, if they can get an SIDF loan and other assistance and training from Stanford, and then, you know, Munshaat helps them do X, Y, and Z, and the chamber does this, but we're the customer. So I think that was a good one. Thank you. Let's go next to Ibrahim. Challenges or a couple of needs that you've identified in the market that would make it easier for entrepreneurs.
Yeah, I will take to this point as a manufacturer, small business manufacturing, sure. Okay. And I will wear their hat today. I mean, I'm still wearing their hat, okay. The challenge we are facing really from the government agency or semi-agency we are facing today. As you see since morning, there is a lot of initiative from SABIC, from Saudi Aramco, from CIDF, from SME Authority. But the system, it is not, I mean, it is not ecosystem, it is not closed. Still there is a gap, and big gap. I will not go far. I will take from CIDF here. Okay, CIDF, they do a great job for small business. They lend in them, they financing them. But the problem where it's coming, when they say the grace period is only 2 years. What will do with the 2 years to construct factory and starting doing that? And at least minimum we should have 5 years. This is one of the challenges we are facing with CIDF. Even with my colleagues here for SME Authority, you know, SME Authority, they have 4 billion from the government to lend. I mean, to support this small SMEs. What they did now, they do great jobs. They go now with the government, not the financial agency, and they lend them to relend it. Okay, they finance them to relending to the small business. When it's coming to this mid-agent, he's coming and say, I need guarantees for my money to be back. And if you see SME itself, they have another hand, Kafala program, which is guarantee these people. This thing is really challenging today. We need one to oversee helicopters to join what we have. We have everything, but we need communicated. We need to have it at the really solid umbrella to kill these issues as we're facing today. This is a really a mess between the government or semi-government agency. This is what they're really facing as SMEs today.
Yeah, another good one. Great insights. Thank you, sir. And then let's move to Adil.
Yes. First of all, under the new program that we started now, maybe a couple of weeks, or let's say more than now 2 months, since the beginning of the year, let's say, AFAP program, we have extended the grace period. It's 2 years after the completion of the project, and not even after the completion. That's after the full implementation, and 6 months after that, then there will be another grace period of 24 months.
Great.
So it's already taken into consideration. Great. For this, for Ibrahim to answer. My insight about entrepreneurs is two sides. The first side is a mature and really proven idea or product, and something that is not yet proven. For startup, there are, when we talk about let's say Aramco or SABIC, we'll take Aramco for just for the local content. It's more clear than SABIC because that's more towards the downstream. But if we go to ICTIFA program, it's already, by the way, I didn't maybe mention it, but we already signed this idea, signed with Nusanid and with ICTIFA and with Ma'aden as well for the local content. We already signed with them an agreements of collaboration. So any applicant or entrepreneurs who want to investor, who want to set up project related under these programs, it will help NSIDF to accelerate the approval, as well as there will be preferential terms for the project. But back again to what I think about the entrepreneurship is we have, if the project is already in the supply chain of Aramco, Aramco is importing these products and we want to localize them. I don't think there will be a difficulty to localize as long as the product or the entrepreneurs or the investor will be able to manufacture the product at a cost that is competitive to what price Aramco they are importing right now. But if the cost of production will be much higher than what can be imported, then this is really we have to make draw a line here. See what would be suitable to be localized, what's not. But once the entrepreneur is capable to source or attract the right technology that's required by the off-taker or the buyer, produce at a competitive price or cost, I think there will be no difficulty to get the demand is there. The most challenging is something that is to develop some product that is not yet in the market, or that need to be just either develop a new way of as a product or as a service, and this will imply a very high risk to the lender from SIDF, and this is usually it goes through venture capital and other means of financing. However, once this idea is tested, prototyped, and proven, and then the entrepreneurs will make the feasibility study and study the project, and you can prepare the feasibility study that convince the lenders to extend the loans or financing. This is how I see it.
It's more great insights. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Just in summarizing this question, if you think of the ecosystem itself as a startup, and we're all players in this ecosystem, we are all doing some things here for the first time. So it's okay to be a little slow. It's okay to have bumps in the road. We're at least on a track towards things getting easier. And it's not going to be perfect, but at least we're trying, and in many cases, we've done more than try. We've succeeded, but let's just continue to push from our individual entities and make this even more streamlined. I know I want to get to the question, so maybe let's do this. This is like 3-sentence answer. Whether in any of your personal entrepreneurial experiences, and some of you have had that, or an entrepreneur or an SME owner that you've worked with, talk to me about, and part of this is, I was at an event last week, and the global speaker that we had said, I learn from other people's experiences, okay? And because you learn best when you experience things yourself, but if I can hear about a mistake that this person made, hey, I may not make that same mistake. So talking from your own experience or an entrepreneur that you supported, what in 3 sentences, what kind of advice would you give an entrepreneur? And I've already heard some little tidbits already that were awesome, but let's start with you, Adil, this time, and we'll go down the line quickly and then get some questions. So advice for entrepreneurs.
Well, probably I already answered some of the advice.
You said where there's a will, there's a way. I heard your stuff. It was great.
It depends on the project itself. What kind of project? Is it something that is just to replace imports? If it's already in the market, it's already imported, just to be replaced. I mean, this is really, it's a low-hanging fruit. I mean, it can be what does it need is bankable feasibility study and source of financing, equity. However, if it's something that is invention or something new in the market, it's never been in the market, this is something that is going to, it's really, it has to be prototyped, as I said, and tested and proven, and then it can be taken to the second stage. And as you said, things will not happen overnight. It has to take its time till it's developed and, get the demand that make the project viable and feasible.
Very good. Good answer. Yeah. And it is a difficult question, but Mohammed, you're getting the same one. Depending on what the business is, give us just some high-level entrepreneurship advice for the aspiring entrepreneurs in the audience.
I think in general, the key message or key advice that I would give is to never work alone. It's sad, it's lonely. There are communities, there is support, there are lots of platforms that you can go to that will support you. Not necessarily that you need but it's just adding value to whatever you're offering. So, and always look at the unique value proposition that you offer and look at the whole value chain. Those are your partners. So work with them and join any community that is related to your industry and your business. So I would say never work alone.
Yeah. And they gave me a microphone, so I'm going to make another comment here. Never work alone. And for me, I'm never the smartest guy in the room. I surround myself with people that are smarter than me because they make me look smart. And there's sometimes a mentality in big corporations where that's not always the case. But as an entrepreneur, I'm not the finance guy. I'm not a CPA. So go find someone that's better, and bring them around. So look for people that are complementary or smarter. That's my 2 cents. Okay, Ibrahim.
I think you get my advice already by you and Mr. Mohammed. My advice to them, didn't go alone. You have to have a partner, especially with the first project. Have a partner. The market is, it's so easy and so difficult both ways. The first project, you have to have a partner to take you to the next step.
Okay, super. All right, it's your time, audience. I hope there's a microphone floating around. Ooh, we got a couple hands already. Is there a microphone or are we shouting? We may be shouting. Sir, in the front row, you're up.
Thank you, Trey. Assalamu alaikum.
So,
I can ask a question. My name is Waleed Somali. I'm working with the Upstream organization, Upstream Business Support, Department of Saudi Arabia. 2 brief questions, perhaps Mr. Mohammed Al-Araifi would like to shed some lights about these 2 cases. One, very brief. I would like my colleagues to also some time for them to ask. The first question that I have is venture capital. In order to have a thriving entrepreneurship ecosystem, we should have a strong venture capital in Saudi Arabia. And I'm not quite sure we are at what level of maturity we have a venture capital here. And they go together. I don't see a thriving and promising entrepreneurship ecosystem without having a venture capital. This is the first question. The second question, and I always ask them venues like these, even though I work in a global enterprise like Saudi Aramco, multinational corporations that operate in the country, big names, and they have businesses, a huge scope of business. And now they are into game-changing technologies like IR 4.0. And IR 4.0 has become really a must type of technology we focus. We don't see their contribution into helping a tech-based entrepreneurship. I think a tech-based entrepreneurship is extremely essential for us to move forward rather than services. So I wonder if the small, medium-sized authority has communicated repeatedly to these multinational corporations that engage in huge businesses in the country about the need for them to tangibly support entrepreneurship. I salute my good friend Ahmed Abdurabbu from Yokogawa to be sponsoring of this event. But we would like to see multinationals that go beyond just sponsoring or providing advice into availing technologies. They generate a lot of IPs. There must be something that these multinational corporations contribute to entrepreneurship. I'm sorry for this lengthy question.
No, good.
Thank
so
you.
I'll help you out, Mohammed. The first question, VCs. Talk to us about your opinion on VCs, and then hit that one.
So on the VC side, we have 2.8 billion allocated from the government to enhance the VC as an industry. And we've established the Saudi Venture Capitals or Saudi VC company recently, and it was, I think, 2 or 3 weeks ago when it was launched. Mainly the offerings that we have is co-matching basis. So any VC who's interested in investing in a company, we will match that investment. The target is to give them more options, to give them more opportunities to invest. So and I think already many VCs have been established, and a lot of the existing investors are interested in entering the VC in VC investments. So and the other is matching the fund itself. So if anyone who's interested in raising a VC fund or multiple investors, we would partner with them in that, and all our involvement would be in a silent way. Our approach is mainly to incentivize, to grow the industry, and to make case studies of success, and then that would organically grow the interest, and money will always go where there is good opportunity, and that would bring me to your second question. So multinationals, what we are working on, I mean, perhaps SAGIA have other efforts to push multinationals towards reinvesting in the kingdom, and I think they have different programs in that area. But what we are actively working on is enhancing the deal flow, working on those accelerators and incubators, and building those platforms to support enhancing high-tech, exponential technologies, businesses that we want to export. So we would, because this industry is not specific to any geographical borders. So what our approach in that is enhancing the deal flow, and that would organically attract the multinationals, the investors, and if they are interested in investing and fostering those businesses, we would also help by co-matching if they're interested.
Thank you. Next question, right here. Oh.
Hi, this is Mohammed Majid. First of all, thanks to KFUPM as well as the EI for having us today, as well as the panelists and Trey. My question is about the fourth industrial revolution. Is there any action taken, practical action taken into being a player in the economical, let's say, the world of economy, to be a leader in the fourth industrial revolution? And if there is any, are there any KPIs to measure that? Thank you.
Up to you guys, and maybe back on you, Mohammed, unless Adil, you want to take it?
Well, regarding the Industry 4.0, this is a really it's a must now to be to enhance the competitiveness of the existing players or existing producers and manufacturers in the kingdom. When it comes to automation, when it comes to digitization. And this is, despite it's not within SIDF, because this is mostly its intangible assets. And despite of that, SIDF is encouraging to the existing producers to take the initiative to implement Industry 4.0 programs and benefit from the financing, because SIDF will be supporting the financing as well. With the preferential terms as well. And this is, we already, SIDF already in talks with Siemens to get into a partnership where they will provide consultancy to the existing beneficiaries who is willing to take that that opportunity and to enhance the productivity of its of their factories. And at the same time, SIDF will be financing the costs associated with that. This is from a SIDF side point of view. So
I think from my end, I mean, we're working on multiple initiatives. Basically, we want to utilize this revolution and be part of, I mean, the first comers. Or at least among the first comers to generate startups and businesses in this industry. One partnership that we have with CAGST and with SWEC, which is here actually in Jubail, and it's going to be launched soon, is an incubator in the water industry.
Super.
So water desalination, and that's in partnership with CAGST and SWEC in Jubail. And we're working on those innovation centers that we plan to have across the kingdom that all are aligned with the different efforts in the IR 4.0. And again, I think all local content and is just for us as considered as generating demand, and all we're going to work, all our efforts are answering to this demand, because this is access to market, and we want to help generate startup factories that will answer to this great demand, and we want to ensure that it's do our level best to make it up to the latest available technologies, or even create new technologies in the different industries that we're serving.
Very good. Maybe one or two more questions. Got one right here. I saw his hand first. Oh, yeah, sorry. Either one. We'll do both of you. I'll take a few more minutes, Dr. Imam.
Assalamu alaikum and good afternoon for everybody. This is Ali Al-Muhsin from Ijad. We are investors in the startups at the seed stage. The keywords in the startup world is risk. How to mitigate this risk? I believe your role as governors and government entities is to help people to absorb that risk, but not to take it for them, nor doing their roles. What I just noticed lately that Munsha'at, the example that you just mentioned, that you are building an entrepreneurial hub, I think this is a private sector role. You should support people to do this and operate this kind of center, not doing it yourself. Because this is what we do. This is an investment. This is a very risky investment. We need support from you guys, a special program to do, to help us do this and absorb the risk based on that. I believe also this also will go to the industrial fund. If you can just also build or help people or investors to launch some kind of industrial innovation hubs or small funds to launch the ideas that are still in the very early stages. And there are brilliant ideas here in the EI and in the other universities. We cannot take this risk as seed investors, but we need support from the funds like yourself. Do you have any plans around what I just said?
Excellent point, and thank you for highlighting it, because the hubs programs and the innovation centers and all those different programs that we run are all run by private sector. We're just incentivizing them and pushing them and giving them and probably supporting them in the early stages, but the ultimate goal is not to be hands-on in any of those and not to have full-time presence in any of those projects such as the hub. So it's all run and by the private sector. So that's the question from my side.
Good. From SIDF side, we are SIDF mandate is to lend industrial projects or finance industrial projects. When it comes to have a certain or specific small funds to help in financing or in the seeding stage of certain ideas, it's not within SIDF mandate now. I mean, I don't know who's responsible in this, but I think Munsha'at maybe they do have some kind of funds for seeding. Is there any?
Yes, there is the.
I'm sure there are something within Munsha'at, but it's not within SIDF. SIDF the idea is not to finance ideas to make them happen. It's to finance long-term investment when it comes to production lines and factories and so on, but with a scale up of the operation itself, not in the prototype or in the testing or in the seeding of the idea itself.
Good. I promise this gentleman one last question.
Yes, thank you, Trey, and your panel guests for this very informative and very nicely designed panel. My question is very short and simple, because we're discussing the impediments or the challenges, and it relates back to something very old in our system. Where do you see now the regulations and laws of different entities? We go back to the municipalities, because here I see people who are very much aware of what's going on, but you go back to the municipalities, Ministry of Labor, banking system. How do you see these regulations governing them, supporting what you're trying to do?
I'll take this one as well, if I may. So there is YESSER. YESSER is a ministerial committee chaired by His Excellency Dr. Majid Al-Qasabi, and it includes members of most government or regulating government entities. And we had experience with this committee and in the licensing for incubators and accelerators, and in a very short and time we got a lot of the difficulties in regulation waived, and the from MOMRA, the Ministry of Municipalities and Rural Affairs, from Ministry of Labor, from the Civil Defense, for entrepreneurs, for startups. So the accelerator, the incubation license is serving startups mainly, only actually. And also there is a committee formed in Yasser for SMEs. So I think this is a national effort that they help all ease of doing business challenges across the kingdom, with chairs for Munsha'at and for any SME supporting government entity to come to talk to the different other government entities and try to work with them in resolving a lot of the ease of doing business challenges.
But still, the challenging is still there. We're still facing, even with the big enterprise company like SABIC, what Mr. Fuad tell, he need to regulate. There is a regulator to be inside SABIC itself to be supporting this small business. It's still there. It's still an issue. Labor office, I mean, the labor minister, they do a great job now with the new minister. Is far away from the past. And as Muhammad said, yes, there is still help, but the challenging is still there.
Yeah, so in wrap up, because I see the important people coming down, they're inflicting their power and authority over the panel here. Thanks, guys. The business companies laws situation is that work in progress. Things are getting easier. We need to figure out bankruptcy laws. We need to figure out how to give employees stock options, or a better way to give stock options. Right. Preferred shares is something else that investors like to have. But my favorite story is that if you look at e-commerce from a business license standpoint on your commercial registration, it was, up until about 8 months ago, considered trading. And if you needed a SAGIA license for that entity that wants to sell goods online, that trading license capitalization requirement was 26 million rials. SAGIA changed about 8 months ago and said, you know what, we understand this isn't trading like, a big family office bringing an equipment manufacturer into the kingdom. This is, Abdullah from Kobar that's starting a phone app, or an e-commerce site. They made that change, and that opened up a lot of opportunity for local entrepreneurs. We need big rocks to be moved like that in order to continue the progress path that we're on. Who's moving it? We're all throwing little pebbles. There's no panacea, but I think it's a lot of people pushing the authorities in the right way, showing best practices, what's doing, where best practices even in neighbor countries are headed, or going, west or east. It's happening. That was a big one. That e-commerce trading differential is a big break in bureaucracy and tough companies laws.
I think Prince Mohammed, he will move it. He will make it happen.
Yes. Perfect. A good way to wrap. So thank you very much, gentlemen. I think we have a coffee break and then back at 3:30.
Just a second.
Whoa.
So, as an honor of appreciation, we'd like to honor our guest. And I'm calling upon our dean, Dr. Wael Musa, to present the awards. So I'm going to start with Engineer Adel Al-Sahami. Mr. Mohammed Al-Arafi. Mr. Ibrahim Al Sheikh. And last but not least, Mr. Trey Gary. حياكم الله. So we will convene inshallah exactly at 3:30 after Asr prayer. We'll have a break and we'll start back for the last session at 3:30 inshallah.